For many people, the word budget carries a quiet resistance. It feels restrictive, overly detailed, and sometimes unrealistic. The idea of tracking every dollar, categorizing every expense, and constantly monitoring spending can feel more like a second job. Because of this, many people either avoid budgeting entirely or they start and quietly give up. In this video, you will learn a simpler way to approach budgeting, one that works whether your income is high or low, and more importantly, one that's easier to follow. Welcome to Work Less, Do Life. Now, let's just say the quiet part out loud because it helps to acknowledge what most people are already thinking. Budgeting feels restrictive. I don't make enough for a budget to matter. Does budgeting actually work? How is this really going to help me? These are not excuses. They are reflections of real questions you have. Since financial stress is not uncommon, thinking about bills throughout the day and frankly, thinking about not being able to pay your bills can keep you up at night. In fact, surveys consistently show that a large portion of Americans think about their finances daily, and many report ongoing stress related to bills, debt, or simply trying to stay on track. And at the same time, most people agree that budgeting is important. Only a small amount of people actually stick to their budget, not because they lack discipline, but because the systems they try to use don't match how real life works. That's where most budgets break down. Many budgeting systems operate like a financial diet. They rely on constant tracking, tight restrictions, and ongoing monitoring. For many people, the first attempt at budgeting starts with a spreadsheet. At first, it feels organized, structured, even a little empowering. But over time, every purchase has to be entered manually, categorized correctly, and updated consistently. And if the spreadsheet is not connected to real-time spending, it depends heavily on memory and discipline and becomes slightly out of date. People start strong, but then life happens. Schedules change, expenses pop up, energy drops, and eventually the system is abandoned. Not because budgeting doesn't work, but because the method wasn't sustainable. In real life, this looks like forgetting to log small purchases, guessing at totals, and falling behind. Once the data is no longer accurate, the system loses trust. The next step for many people is trying a budgeting app. The promise sounds perfect. Automatic tracking, clean dashboards, real-time updates. But the experience does not always match the expectation. People find themselves renaming categories, reassigning transactions, and trying to match the app structure to their real-life priorities. That's when most spending becomes uncategorized and notifications stack up. The system is technically set up, but it never quite feels useful. Your budgeting efforts become more about configuring the tool and less about budgeting. And for many people, the system never reflects how they actually think about their money. So the real issue is not effort, it is structure. Most systems require constant engagement, and documenting spending becomes a daily, hands-on process. But in reality, most people do not need more interaction with their budget. They need less friction. They need a system that reflects priorities, is an unused part of their existing efforts, works in the background, and does not require daily attention. A well-designed budget is not something you manage all the time. It is a framework that is adapted to your existing life, one that directs money automatically, reduces decision fatigue, and allows you to move through your life without constantly checking in. With that in mind, Imagine Martha sitting at a table with friends. They are laughing, talking, and ordering food. For a moment, everything feels easy. But as she looks at the menu, a quiet thought interrupts her fun. Can I afford this? She hesitates, then orders anyway. The card goes through. Whew, it's a relief. But that feeling does not last. Now her mind races. Did I spend too much this week? What bills are coming due? Am I going to be short at the end of the month? This, unfortunately, is the way we typically handle finances. Nothing is clear, overspending is easy, and figuring it out as we go feels like that's the best we can do. But the truth is, this kind of financial worries can lead to complicated decisions, underfunded months, and health-related stress. Financial stress severely impacts health, with about 42% of U.S. adults reporting that money negatively impacts their mental health, and those with debt having a 60% higher risk of serious health issues. And according to an article published by Vanderbilt University, making a financial plan is a great step toward easing financial stress. A budget is not meant to control every decision. It is meant to remove uncertainty. This shift in thinking changes the structure of budgeting so that it becomes less about restriction and more about function. This is where the DIMES method comes in, a simple framework designed to organize your money so it begins to manage itself. Not as another tool to manage every day, but as a system you set once and allow to run in the background. Let's see how Martha adapted. Martha wants to budget, but she does not want to track every dollar. So she followed the 3 simple rules of DIMES. 1. Create a clear money goal. 2. Zero out your monthly income. 3. Assign every dollar to a purpose. But before she could do that, she needed to understand her income fully. And while most people stop at how much they make, the DIMES method goes one step further and asks, when does your money actually come in? Because timing matters just as much as totals. Martha mapped out her income. Her W-2 income brought in $1,500 biweekly. Her gig income brought in $200 weekly. Her small business brought in $400 monthly. Her total income was $4,200, but now she understood exactly when it arrived throughout the month. Next, she focused on debt and required obligations. These were the payments that had to be made no matter what. Her car payment was $350. Her car insurance was $150. Her credit card payments were $30 and $25. Her estimated taxes were $100 per month, and her total debt was $655. Then she moved to investing. She committed $500 per month toward investing through dollar cost averaging. This was not based on what was left over at the end of the month. This was part of her DIMES method plan. She agreed with herself to implement this early, even if she needed to adjust later. Next was the mortgage or rent. Her housing cost was $2,000, and her renter's insurance was $100. Housing is her anchor. It must be paid. Then she moved to expenses. Her everyday spending included groceries, $350, utilities, $150, phone, $125, subscriptions, $150, cable and internet, $150, and lifestyle spending, $150. Altogether, this came to $1,075, and it was her most flexible category, where changes or adjustment could be made if needed. And the S in DIMES is for savings, which included a sinking fund. Sinking funds are those funds that hold your emergency money. She agreed to save $150 in high-yield savings account and stash away $100 in an emergency fund. This gave her stability and growth, plus a little bit of breathing room in case of an emergency. When Martha added everything together, she realized something important. Her total expenses were $4,330, while her income was $4,200 per month. But something odd stood out. She was only $130 short to zero out her income to budget. And that was including the additional $500, $150 in savings, and the $100 in the sinking fund, none of which was in her non-budgeted life. That's a total of $750 she should have always had, because it was not going to bills, but it was still leaking through her income bucket. At this point, she was thoroughly confused as to why she never had money at the end of her month, and she didn't have anything saved. But she could not worry about that. She had to stay focused and move on. Let's see how she handled this. It was clear she had to make adjustments because she was short by $130. Instead of giving up, she started working on adjusting her budget. She knew she wanted to start and keep her investment, savings, and sinking fund program, so she looked at her expenses and rationalized. She does not need cable, and switched to free streaming apps, saving $150. Now remember, she still has to zero out her monthly income. So she took the excess of $20 and added it to her grocery bill, thinking that would be where she needed extra money the most. Now her numbers worked. $4,200 coming in and $4,200 going out with purpose. Every dollar had an assignment. Some went to bills, some went to growth, and some went to protection. Next, she aligned her income with bills. She created a calendar planner showing when each income source arrived and matched her payments to those dates. Then, using her bank, she scheduled everything to be paid a few days before it was due. Within one bank account, she created separate sub-accounts or buckets for each dimes category: debt, investing, mortgage, expenses, and savings. Her income flowed into these accounts automatically based on her plan. And debt and expenses were paid automatically and recurring. For her daily spending, she used her debit card attached to the sub-account, expenses. This made it easy to see exactly what she had available without checking multiple systems or tracking every purchase. Now, when Martha sits at that table with friends, she is not wondering if she can afford something. She already knows what her expense account has allocated for this spending without tracking every dollar. Then, every 6 months, and as time goes by, debt is paid down and her investments grow. Her savings money piles up and her emergencies are funded. She can make reallocations, adjustments, where debt payments can be added to investments or to pay down other debt. Either way, there is less daily management and more upgrade management. That's one way to set it up once, check twice, and live life. To set up your budget once, the goal is to know your income and pay cycle, then match bills and expenses to the proper time of the month, with the goal to zero out each month. Spend smart without overmanaging your budget. Review every 6 months to find new opportunities. If you want more simple systems like this that help you take control of your money without overcomplicating your life, subscribe and follow along.